Today it's day 2 of my 4-day Read Philippians with Me series, and if you don't know, this is a 4-day series I'm doing going through the book of Philippians, where I'm inviting you to join me as I read one chapter a day, and each day I post a little video sharing what I liked and what stood out to me about the chapter for that day. So today is day 2. Here's what I liked about chapter 2 of Philippians. Chapter 2 is so good and it talks about many important things, but the one I want to focus on today that stood out to me is selflessness. Starting in verses 3 and 4 it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others." We live in a very self-focused world, and the practice of selflessness is becoming less and less common. And I think selflessness can be tough sometimes because, myself included, it's very easy to become consumed with ourselves if we don't intentionally make the choice to be selfless and to value others above ourselves. So when I read this, I think, man, what better way to be a light and to be an example to those around us than to be selfless and to actually value others above ourselves. Because selflessness is becoming more rare, someone that is genuinely selfless stands out. And I know in my life I really look up to and admire those who are selfless and value others above themselves. And I like what Paul says about Timothy in verses 20 and 21. He says, "I have no one else like him who will show genuine concern for your welfare, for everyone looks out for their own interests, not those of Jesus Christ." So Timothy, someone who showed genuine concern for the welfare of the Philippians, was someone who Paul, who knew a lot of people, knew no one else like. And so Timothy stood out because of that. But then I also like how Paul points out that selflessness is not just about valuing others above ourselves, but it's also about valuing God above ourselves. As he says, "For everyone looks out for their own interests, not those of Jesus Christ." So we see that true selflessness is looking out for the interests of others and for the interests of God. And most of the time, those two will actually be one and the same. When we look out for the interests of God, a lot of times he'll send us to look out for the interests of people. And when we look out for the interests of people, we know that we're also looking out for the interests of God. So I was just encouraged and reminded today whenever I was reading this to value selflessness in my own life, to value others above myself, and to also value God and his ways above my own. And this is something I definitely want to pray for and be putting into practice. So I encourage us today. Let's be good examples and be lights by the selflessness that we can show. And let's value others' interests and the interests of God above our own. And let's see how it affects our lives and those around us. That is what stood out to me today about chapter 2. If you haven't joined yet and you want to, I'd love for you to join. You could start from chapter 1 or you could jump into chapter 2 today. I would love for you to join me in reading Philippians. And if you have joined me, I'd love to know what stood out to you today about chapter 2. You can let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 3.